Hi everybody, it's Anne with Art on the Creek. This is kind of a different way for me to start a video for you today. Welcome to my home in Parker, Colorado. I'm in my living room right now, and this is a little cubby hole that I have that I've decorated with kind of an homage to the love for fishing that we have in our family. Here are my parents, and this pretty much sums up every summer vacation in my childhood. We had so much fun fishing and camping. My dad on the left, of course, my mom on the right. And in his retirement and my mother's retirement too, they were kind enough to teach our sons how to fish. Look at that, those boys. Oh, memories. And our daughter, unfortunately, did not get the fishing bug, but she sure did love posing for pictures. So there she is at 1 year old. At any rate, this is the fish that I painted a while back. And I kind of wanted to redo him today. I've got the fish, I've got all of these pictures to remind me of my parents, and I have my dad's fishing creel. I love this thing. The trout goes in the hole on the top, and you wear it around your shoulder or as a belt. The leather is all old and cracked, but the basket is still in wonderful shape, and it's just a source of great memories for me. And I also have this fun sculpture. Let me get it going here. So we are a big fishing family, and I thought we could have fun painting a trout today, similar to this one, but we're going to use a different pose and a little bit different technique. So let's go give that a go, shall we? Before we continue though, please subscribe to Art on the Creek if you haven't done so already by clicking on that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell too so that you'll always know when I launch a new tutorial or a product review. Of course, if you do enjoy content like this, make sure that you give it a like, leave a comment, or share it with your friends. If you'd really like to take your art skills to the next level, I would encourage you to consider a membership with Art on the Creek. When you're a member, or patron of my channel, your membership includes an extensive library of tutorials covering drawings and paintings of a variety of subjects, not just beautiful Colorado, and also in many different art media. You'll have full and unlimited access to an ever-growing members library of tutorials and reviews, as well as the opportunity to receive guided feedback and critique from me. And also, you'll have direct input into which art technique or medium you'd like to learn more about as a member, as well as access to free art supplies. All of that and more is included in your membership, and it's all very conveniently right here on YouTube. There is a link in the description below that will go over all the membership details. But if you still have any questions, just ask me in the comments and I'll be sure to help you out. Now, let's move on to today's subject, shall we? So I wanted to share this with you guys. This is from my grocery list notebook. I was sitting around one morning thinking of my parents, and I was just kind of remembering how much fun we had fishing. And so I use this as kind of I had to get a bunch of different pictures from the internet to get the image that I wanted of a rainbow trout. And so I've traced it onto here because this took me a very long time to finalize this drawing. So I traced it. So that's the first lesson. Tracing, no problem. The vision that I have in my head, we'll see if we can do it, is I want to have some water splashing up on this guy. So first things first, any kind of landscape or anything that's colored like landscape that you would want to paint, I highly recommend this. This is the Daniel Smith Colors of Inspiration palette, and I've got it upside down here. It goes this away. This top row here are the colors that come in the set, and then it comes with 12 additional empty pans that you can add whatever you like to. But you're given a cadmium yellow medium, a quin rose, wisteria, rose of ultramarine, moon glow, shadow violet, phthalo blue, green shade, lavender, cascade green, serpentine green, which is one of my favorites, green apatite genuine, and quinacridone gold. And all of these are just lovely together when you're creating any kind of landscape or anything like that. And I added a few more down here. I have the basic set of the Mayberry Blue. I think it's our introductory set. And then I have the Daniel Smith Introductory Primatex set, in addition to a Holbein Ultramarine, because I just can't get enough ultramarine. I've got a Holbein and a Mayberry Blue there. So I kind of wanted to compare those two ultramarines. Love them both, by the way. So anyway, that's what I have in here. And I've used this before. I've got a little bit of mixes on here, but I think what I want to do for this one, this is a new paper to me. I've never tried it yet, but I wanted to recommend it for my Christmas list this year. the Bamboo Mixed Media by Hanamule. And the reason that I want to recommend this one is because a lot of people are looking for a good mixed media sketchbook. And I've heard wonderful things about this one. This is 6 by 9.8 inches or 15.3 by 25 centimeters, and it is a beautiful size for traveling. It fits in a bag really well. It is made of 90% bamboo fiber and 10% cotton, so I have no idea how this is going to be. I'm very intrigued. And Hanamule is a brand that is pretty much sold worldwide. So I'll put affiliate links in the description to everything I'm using today. But if you have a way to get a better price, feel free to purchase it. If you've got a brick and mortar store, you're fortunate enough to have a nice art store in your area, definitely shop there. But if you'd like to use the convenience of Amazon Prime, I'm putting those links down in the description. What I've got here is my sketch. So let's start out by getting him wet. I'm using a Princeton Aqua Elite long round. A long round is just that. It's longer than a traditional round brush. Let me just get one here to compare. Here we go. Is this an 8? Yes. This is the Princeton Neptune regular round. And this is a long round on top. So you can definitely see the long round is in fact longer. It's about the same belly width, but it does hold a little bit more. And you can see for these two, now the one down here, the lower one, I've used it quite a bit, but the point on the Aqua Elite is really beautiful. It just comes to a wonderful hair point, and I'll be able to get the details of the eye in without changing my brush. So that's always a plus for me. Let's go ahead and get the green on his body first. So what I'm going to do is just paint this with water. We're going to see how this does with some wet on wet. Now I'm not going into the head area yet, just the points that have his body. I'm not doing the fins. And if you're painting this for yourself, you could certainly erase these lines and make them a little bit lighter. I am just providing these for you as reference. And I realize my drawing is not correct. So this line here needs to come right here with the fishtail. So we'll just make that little correction, and let me get this cleaned up a bit. There we go, that's better. And that means I got to change this curve too. This little fish has given me some troubles, you guys. But I think I've got him down. He almost was the one that got away. Get it? There we go. That's better. We need to have this as the culmination of this point of his body needs to line up with the middle of his tail. All right, back at it here. I'll fill this in with water, and I'm avoiding that fin for now because I've got just a really neat paint to use on those fins. At least I hope so. So given that I'm in a very dry area, I'm just going to work on one section of the body at a time. And I'm going to go in, first of all, with the Serpentine Green, and that's what I've got going here. So this Serpentine Genuine is amazing. It's part of the Daniel Smith Primatex series, and it just granulates and separates into these beautiful hues. Wait until you see this. Oh, I can tell you guys right away, this paper is lovely. It acts a lot like cotton, and for mixed media paper, this is incredible. I've never had one perform this cooperatively. So first stroke, I'm in love. Now, the beauty of using a separating pigment on something like this where you have a fish is because fish have the most beautiful variegation in their scales. They have that iridescent, not all fish, but some fish do. And our little trout is no exception. I'm leaving this middle area plain because he does have a nice pink stripe that goes down there. Can you see? I'll zoom in because already this is working so well, and this paper's really performing far better than I thought. Can you pick up the granulation and the separation in the pigments? There's some browns coming out, a little bit of a cooler green up here, and on the edge you can kind of see I'm trying not to get the glare for you there. There you go, a nice cool green. I love this paint. So when you're working with landscapes and things like that that have a lot of interesting texture that is made by nature, and it's virtually impossible to, in my mind anyway, to replicate and really get it correct, this is a great opportunity to pull out your super granulating paints or any multi-pigment mixes that you might have. Now I've let this dry just a little bit because I want to go in with just a little bit more paint. Same consistency. It's just about, I would say probably 2% milk. And I'm just going to build up the areas along the edges here. And my paper is still damp, so it will still be able to travel. And just kind of darkening my fish a little bit. Still avoiding the middle section, the stripe down the middle of his body. Come in here on the tail and we'll fill in some darkness there. And right up here where the bend is, I want to have some more pigment in there. There we go. That's looking really nice, and I hope you can see how beautifully this is granulating and coming out, because oh my gosh, this paper is amazing. So now I want to work on the head, but I don't want to get in here because this is going to be pink. So let's work on his nose area, tip of his mouth, because that's going to be more of this green. And here we can bring in another color to add some gradient to it. Go down in there just a little, and that can hit the body, that's fine. There. And so same color with that serpentine green. I'm just kind of starting at the tip of his nose and really just encouraging that pigment to flow everywhere I've put the water. Carefully going around the eye, and this brush is beautiful for this. Kind of leaving some of these places without pigment. This is going to be a fish jumping out of the water, so the sun, I think, is going to be coming from the top. This is kind of out of my imagination, so we'll see how it goes. And now, because I do want this green to mix with the pink that I'm going to use, I am going to extend this water to the edge here, but I'm leaving a light line, leaving a little space in between this and the body because I want this to be a little bit more pink. So now the color that I want to use for this is the quinacridone rose, and that's over here. And I need to find a little clean space on my palette. And I'm going to add just a touch of quinacridone gold just to get it a little more toward the red. There we go. Fill that in. And I'll use that same color to fill in down here. And now I'm going to go in with just a little bit more of the quinacridone rose and just drop in just a touch more pigment on that area. Just so we can see that mix of pink and browns and tans. I think that should go down there, and then this is the other side of the fish here. It's a little bit of a puzzle. And now I'm going to go in with a damp brush and just kind of agitate this pigment here. Just mix it a bit. Kind of get rid of that hard line. We'll see how that behaves. Go back into that quin rose. Try and just blending it so that it doesn't have that hard line. There we go, I'm liking that. And I'm just going in with a slight bit of quin rose here, just straight from the pan, very thick. bringing that up from the bottom so that we can get some different sorts of texture there. Damp brush, blending this tail in a little bit, back into the serpentine green, bring that up in there together. There we go. All right, and we will fix this, put this tail toward the back here in a minute. I will show you how to do that. So we've got this up here, this part right here, I don't like how that's blending, so I'm going to go in with some of the serpentine green and just coax this a bit with the second wash here. The fun thing about watercolors, if you go in with thin layers first, you'll always be able to continue to manipulate and create nuances because it's a transparent medium. And what we want to do with that is to be able to establish shape, shadow, and form, and we can do that simply by carefully placing our pigment. Now let's see, we're going to blend this soften that line there, and the way we're softening the line is just by getting our brush wet, blotting it off on a paper towel, and then coming over here and lifting some off. I'll do that on these gill lines too. There we go. I cannot believe how cooperative this paper is. This is really a delight. I'm going to go into that quinacridone gold, and I'll put it over here in my area in my palette where I've got some of this serpentine green. I want it mostly gold, and then I'll fill in this area behind the eye. That part tends to be a little bit lighter on the fish. And I'm going to drop in just a little bit more of that quin gold here along the gill lines. And let's put some around his mouth and underneath. Just going for a cohesive look here. And when we mix that quin gold, it just really helps to create these shadows that create a nice, real nice look to our fish. All right, I think that's good for now. And now I'm going to go into this Cascade green. And this is a cooler green, but it's also a multi-pigment. And in this Cascade green, I'll mix it up with a pile I've already got going over here. I'm going to add some of that quinacridone gold so that it's just a wonderful, beautiful leaf green almost. So it's the Cascade green and the quin gold. And with that, I am going to put a little line right here where the fish has bent. And with my wet brush, I'm just going to pull that out. Do it again. Just really trying to just get the shadow in here a little bit. Drop in some more pigment. Concentrating that pigment there. Boy, this paper is lovely to work with. Very easy. All right. Now let's work on this tail feather, his tail fin. Oh my goodness. Okay, the quinacridone gold, I'm just making a good puddle of it here. I've got like a little cotton or something in there. Where I had that serpentine gold, and that is the first color that I'm going to add to the tail. So let's go ahead and put that in here. Kind of want to fill this one all in. And now I'm going to go in with the Shadow Violet, not that one, which is a dusky purple. It's a really nice color. Here's the quinacridone gold, absolutely lovely. And then that Shadow Violet is kind of a greenish, purplish. So this has some really nice combinations to it. Makes a beautiful shadow color, very natural looking. And I am going to just do some fin lines. Get a little bit more on my brush here. And I'm going to make them a little bit fainter as I get to the top here, just not quite as defined. We'll just kind of ready them up down here toward the bottom. All right, and there's the first layer of the fins, and we're going to repeat that on all of his fins here. So let's do this one. I've got this little portion of the video sped up because it's all the same. If you want to pause here and get caught up, that's fine. We're just dropping in the quinacridone gold and then going in with that shadow violet to help define those ridges just a little bit. This will be really nice when we're all done. There we are. And now we'll go back into that shadow violet and add some markings. These underfins kind of have a darker line to them right there. And let's see, we're going to want to punch up some of this quinacridone gold. And we'll get that around his mouth a little bit more. And I'll go ahead and wash over the gills with that. And then on the top, we're going to go back into that Cascade green, the bluish green. And let's add that to the top and let that migrate around. And this is going to end up going all the way down his back. So we're going to take this wash of water, come in with this Cascade green and just deposit this pigment so that it can migrate. Needs a little more water, I think. Alrighty, now we'll come back in with some of this quinacridone gold on our next pass. And we'll come in here like so. And I'm just touching that gold to the green so that those two can blend together. I actually don't want it right there. So let me get a little rag. And we'll blot that little piece up right there. And I'll just blend this a little bit more here, okay? Now we'll come in with some of this quinacridone rose, and I'll put this over here. Some there, back into the gold. And stopping that, and now we're going to go into our ultramarine blue, and I am going to use the Mayberry blue, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, this one here. And I really like the Mayberry blue because it granulates fabulously well. And let's see, let's go down here with it. Use the water to just get those blended together. Come back in here with the blue. There we go. And let's see, he's got a little bit of that blue under his chin here. think I'll just go with some yellow in the mouth. And I'll fill that in with some shadow violet. And around the eye, using that shadow violet again. And also on this gill line back here. And now I've got a really fun color. It's from the Daniel Smith Primatech lines. It's this Hematite Genuine, or Hematite. I'm not sure how that's pronounced, but it's this second one in here. It's kind of a subtle dark color, but I really like, there we go. I like it as a mixer, and I like how it is kind of just a sheer gray, but it granulates very, very well. So that I'm going to do now a wash over all of the fins with that one. Put a little bit down, come back in with a wet brush. The fins of this trout are really kind of stunning in their own right. They have a lot of color dimension to them, and layering these pigments, especially finishing with a granulating one like this, really helps to establish that texture in what you're painting. Still using that Hematite Genuine or Hematite Genuine, I'm going to go ahead and line the mouth, kind of go around the edges a little bit here to just add a subtle bit of shadowing. And let's see, the eye on this fish definitely has some quinacridone gold, so we're going to fill that in now. That's dry enough. Whenever you're working on something very small or detail, make sure the area around it is completely dry so that your colors don't run, and then go ahead and fill it in very carefully. You want to grab that brush really close to the filament, kind of grab it on the ferrule like I am here. And we'll wait for that to dry. And now for these spots, I really like this Permatite Genuine to do the spots. It's kind of a burgundy color. See how beautiful this is? And we'll just add some spots to our fish. You know, when I was looking through the reference photos for this fish, there are so many different variations in them. They're subtle, but they can really be dramatic in some cases. So, and I think it might depend on the age of the fish. So I'm just kind of using a compilation of reference photos here. I'll include a few in the link. I'll link to a few in the description down below. And you know, you can create your own compilation. I'll also include the PDF line drawing I have of this particular fish that I drew. I've used the moon glow in the fins, and now I'm going to repeat it a little bit as an additional layer in the mouth here. We'll just touch that up a little bit with some more quinacridone gold, and then we can move on to the pupil of the eye. Now that I've got the mouth situated, I can work on that eye, and I've remembered to leave a highlight place for that eye. That's very important. If you do forget it though, you can go back in with a white gel pen or some white gouache. I am using the Hematite or Hematite Genuine to fill in the eye. You could use any neutral tint, you could use some kind of a black, but I wanted to go in and capture whatever granulation might appear to give it some dimension in that pupil. So I am going ahead and using that Hematite Genuine here as well. I'm not sure if you can tell, but my wrist is resting off of the paper entirely. I want to make sure that I am not touching the wet dots on the fish while I'm doing this detailed work, because I really don't want to smudge those around. We'll do the fins too. All right, there is our fish. And now I want to see what I can do with some water. So I'm going to go in with a really large brush. This is a 3/4 inch mop brush, and I'm going to go in with some clean water. And is he dry enough? No. Even though it's really best to let granulating pigments dry on their own naturally so that they can have their maximum working time on the paper, I'm going to go ahead and use this heat tool here to speed up the drying process for us today, just for demonstration purposes. All right, clean water. And yes, clean water is very important for this, because I want this splash to really be as pure as the pigments that I'm putting down. So I've got my 3/4 inch mop brush, or that cat's tongue, and I'm just kind of splooshing water all around, just kind of making it random. Don't really have a plan here. Let's just let the paints play and see what happens. All right, it's a lot of water. Let's see what happens. Let's go back into this Mayberry Blue, the ultramarine. I think it's too much water. Let me just blot some of it up. Going very, very lightly on the surface of the water, but now I'm just kind of dropping in a little bit more intense load of that ultramarine wherever I see these droplets of water, so that they can be the splashes themselves. In the area on my palette there where I have the ultramarine, that's where I have the moon glow as well. So now I'm mixing this to kind of create the darker ripples in the water and some shadows up here in these splashes. Just mixing it, but not mixing it completely. I kind of want to be able to let the paints play on their own in the palette as well as on the paper. But that's moon glow and ultramarine. And now I'm really going to mix it and just kind of try and get some splashes down here. I'm really just kind of winging it. I'm thinking, okay, if I were a fish and I were jumping out of the water, let's see, it would kind of be holding on to me here and there, and now we're going to add some splashes. And I'm just really thinking out of the box here and just kind of trying to play with this to get this paint thin enough for the splashes to work, and really just kind of get it to explode on the paper. I'm having a lot of fun doing this. This is really turning out better than I expected, and this paper is amazing. I've thrown a lot at it today, and a lot of mixed media papers couldn't handle this. A lot of them would be a little more bogged down by this amount of water. And now I've got a really kind of a heavy mix of that ultramarine, and I'm going to cover the fish with paper so I can really get some of these splashes on his tail. And over here on the side, I'm just really trying to get these splashes to be a little bit more random, and this part is so fun, you guys. All right, now let's add some shadow violet to the water for some of these darker areas, and some serpentine green. Back in with the shadow violet. All right, and now I'm just going to drop some water in there just to let that play. Now, the hardest part is letting this rest. I don't want this little dot up here, so let me see if I can lift that off. And I can. This paper's passing a lot of tests. There. And I don't like what happened here with the tail, so I think I'm going to clean that up when it gets to a little bit more dry here. But I do want this to kind of be clinging onto the fish. So I want to, there we go. Just flicking that up really gets that tensile strength of the water. And that's just done with a dry brush. All right, now I'm going to lift out some of the water here to have some white. Where he would have left the water. There. Okay, I am very pleased with this. Let's see here. Now I just want to see if I can lift out a tiny bit of a highlight under the fish here, right about along here. It seems like I've got just a little too much pigment, and it also looks like this is going to be very easy to do. I can't tell you how pleased I am with this paper. It is sized perfectly so that lifting off is no issue whatsoever, and that's one of the ways that I really like to create soft highlights in my work. I'll do it intentionally with a plan to lift out later because you get such wonderful soft edges, and a lot of times I do cover up the highlights intentionally so that I can use this effect. And you've got to have a paper that can handle this. You have to have a paper that can handle the gentle scrubbing without fraying, and this one fits the bill perfectly. There. That worked out beautifully. Now I just want to come in with this green here, this dark green, and just replace this shadow line there. Touch up some of these fins. And then finally, I'll go back into the quinacridone gold, mix it with that hematite, and I just want to clean up that edge a little bit. And no surprise, it worked beautifully. All right, let me give this one final dry, and we will be all done with our beautiful trout jumping out of the water. I will always encourage my students to sign and date your work on the front where you can see it. Be proud of what you've done. It will help you also to realize how you've grown as an artist over the years. In a lot of ways, I like the textures of this fish much better than the one I showed you at the beginning. The one upstairs is done on hot press paper, and this one is done on this beautiful mixed media paper. Look at these granulating effects that are coming out of these pigments. This paper was able to handle an awful lot of water, which is really what you need to make granulating pigments just truly sing on your paper. So if you guys want to paint this beautiful fish jumping out of the water, I will include everything you need in the description below. Of course, you don't need to use these. You can use whatever supplies you have on hand, whatever makes you happy. Please have a wonderful day and enjoy painting this week. We'll see you next time, guys. Bye now.